Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 2nd of the February and I welcome you to the Hindu newspaper as well as budget discussion. Now guys, first of all, before starting the session, I would like to talk on certain things. Just a couple of days back, I have asked from you guys that should we make a separate video on budget and a separate video on newspaper analysis. Now, I'll answer that particular thing, but before that, I would like to show you first of all the overview of the today's newspaper, and after that, I'll answer on that particular thing. So here we have the Hindu newspaper. The first article, politics, and this article is talking about that what are the major announcements that have been made into the budget. Then guys, if you see here, actually the entire newspaper today, the entire Hindu newspaper today is filled only with the budget related articles. I'll just show you here. So this is the page number 1. All budget related issues are there. Then if you go here on the page number 2, again mobile phones, TVs to get cheaper, toys, bicycles, automobile dearer. So again all the budget related news. Then again page number 3 also, all the budget related articles have been covered here. Then further moving on, again the budget, all the budget related issues, fine. The new initiatives that have been taken, they are there. Again on page number 5 also, even the budget has been given. Okay, so continuing in this particular thing, that again still MG Narega fund cut by 33% to 60,000 crore rupees. So still the budget is going on. Okay, moving in this particular direction. Okay, so even on page number 7, fine, the budget and all the budget announcements, the trends, patterns, fine, has been given. Continuing. So the point is that guys, the today's entire newspaper is just filled only with the budget related items that have come. Okay, so moving on in this particular direction. So here we can see that the budget related issues are still fine. So the entire even editorial section. So when we talk about the editorial section, so first editorial, a budget that signals growth with stability, a raft of concession amid consolidation, commentary on budget. This article is also the commentary on budget. The growth deacceleration problem cannot be skipped. Okay, then further moving on, the social sector has been shortchanged once again. So again this particular article is talking about the commentary on budget. According to the article, that the social sector has not specifically been focused. Then guys, moving on, a budget without a vision for agriculture. So again the article is criticizing the budget here. Okay, then further moving on, a balance between capital outlay and fiscal prudence. Okay, so this particular article is talking about that how budget has tried to focus. Now the article is written by Mr. M. Suresh Babu, who is advisor to the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. So, obviously the article will be more in the favor of the government. So again, even the editorials are on the budget. Then we come to the text and the context section. So there is this one article, is judicial majoritarianism justified? Okay, then there is one more article, that what is the government's new policy for UPI or on NRI for NRIs, and then further moving on, how Edgar Allan Poe sets the template for the whodunit and literature in his stories. Not very much relevant article for the examination. Then guys, further moving on in this particular direction, after that again the budget related issues have been continued. Center fooled, cheated, Bihar again, anti-poor, opportunistic budget. So these political commentaries have come in the newspaper, and moving in this particular direction, the same things have been there. Okay, so all the, now here one important article is there, Protection Under Domestic Violence Act available to not available to male members. So this is one article that is there. Okay, then further moving on in this particular direction. Okay, CM slams budget, will be able to save more now, cities, salaried employed businessmen. So again the commentaries on the budget etc, they are being taken up here. Budget will lay strong base. Okay, so Congress calls budget callous. Now, so point is that what I'm trying to show you is that entire newspaper is filled either with the budget related news or the commentaries on budget that are being made. And then there is one, this article, India US step up strategic ties with the tech plan. So in total, in entire newspaper, there are 4 news articles which are apart, which are different from the budget. Rest, the entire newspaper is filled with only one thing, that is budget, and I have shown you the entire newspaper overview to you so that you can see it by yourself. Now, before guys moving in the today's discussion, I would just like to tell you little bit certain things. Now, I will tell you the flow of this session. Okay, but before that I will tell you some important things. Number one guys, that as the budget has been announced, you need not to focus too much. No need to focus too much on budget, because in prelims examination, much importance of see, budget is important, but much importance is not there. Only some aspects are there of budget which are important. In mains examination, in mains examination, we can use some in mains examination we can use certain references from the budget to further enhance the quality of our answer. So that is important. Okay, then when we talk about budget, understand this particular thing. You are not required to see these particular things, that what is going to be expensive. For example, TV will become expensive, mobile phone will become expensive, this will become cheap, that will. So what will be expensive, what will be cheap? You are not required to see these particular things for the sake of our examination. No. Then further, as we talk about the budget, guys, you are also not required to follow that what are allocations in absolute number that have been given to different schemes, to different programs. For example, let's say there is MG Narega program. You are not required to see that whether the funding increased, whether now funding increased, decreased is one thing, but you are not required to see that, okay, how much percentage increase, how much percentage decrease, last year how many crore were given, this year how many crore have been given. So there are a lot of trends that will be coming, that for this scheme funding increased by 3.4%, for this scheme funding decreased by 1.9%. No need to go on those microscopic trends. Fine. Then after that particular thing, guys, basically the budget also contains the proposals with respect to the taxation, proposals with respect to the taxation. For example, with respect to the income tax, government had provided this particular thing, that the income tax basically it has been provided that the people who are earning up to 7 lakh rupees, they don't need to pay income tax in the new regime. Income tax in the new regime. What is new regime? Now see this particular thing, guys. When you file your income tax returns, there are the provisions that you can claim certain deductions and exemptions. Now if you don't, now there is a new regime. It is that you don't claim any deductions, you don't claim any exemptions, then up till 7 lakh rupees. So 7 lakh rupees, you don't need to pay any tax. Okay, then whatever is going to be tax treatment and whatever the microscopic tax proposals are there, it's not important for our examination. Why? Because we are not preparing for CA examination, we are not preparing for CS examination, so not important for that. Okay, fine. However, whatever relevant information is there, I will anyhow cover it. So my point is that, please guys understand one thing, please understand one thing, that your focus on budget needs to be proper. Okay, you don't need to do PhD on budget. Okay, budget, it comes every year, and if you see the past year question papers, fine, concept is important, but hairline trends, again, what is becoming expensive, what is becoming cheap, funding, how much percentage increase, how much percentage decrease, tax treatments, not very much needed. And one more thing I'm talking here is that, guys, there is a lot of commentary, there is a lot of commentary that will come on budget. Some people will praise budget, some people will criticize budget. Now whatever commentary is coming, this is all the personal views of the people. You are not required to follow too much for this examination. Again, keep this particular thing very clearly in your mind. Okay, why I am saying this particular thing, guys? Because see, today there is information overload on internet, on YouTube, on Telegram, everywhere. You are being fed up so much of the data, so much of information, and often students get confused. They think that everything is important, but no. And how I am able to tell you that? I don't have any superpower. Just by seeing the previous year papers, okay, we are able to tell you that what is important, what is not important. One thing. Now, moreover, guys, economic survey has also been released. Economic survey has also been released. And as we talk about economic survey, already I have shared the PDF with you guys on the Telegram channel yesterday. Now, when we talk about economic survey, it happens to be more than 400 pages document. It happens to be more than 400 pages document. It is not possible for you to read these 400 pages. Moreover, not only reading, you need to remember it also. So reading and remembering 400 pages is not important. So the point is that, moreover, at the same time, guys, there will be full length videos also that will be coming on YouTube, where line by line they'll read economic survey. It is your wish if you want to see that, but I don't suggest too much that you should go and waste 30, 40, 20 hours in the economic survey. First you will read, so see those videos, then you will make notes out of those videos. Rather, the point is that what you can do, you can read the brief summary of economic survey that we have given on the Telegram channel. All the important points that have been there, important announcements that have been there, important observations that have been there, it has been covered. Is it clear or not? So you can do that thing. Now, the best thing is that if still you want to give a more focus on economic survey, I will suggest you that you read it by your own. You read it by your own. If you want to give more time, for example, you are appearing for for the next year or such kind of thing. Fine. Now, talking about today's class flow. Talking about today's class flow. So, guys, earlier I asked you a question that should we make a dedicated separate video on budget and a different video on newspaper analysis. But that doesn't make any sense because today's newspaper is nothing but the budget only. Okay, so today's newspaper is nothing but the budget. Entire newspaper is filled with the budget. Okay, there are 4 articles. Okay, the entire paper is budget. 95% paper is budget, and then there are 4 articles that have been given in the today's newspaper. So I don't find much of a sense for making a separate video only for these 4 articles. Okay, what we'll do in the today's newspaper, first we'll cover budget. In the today's newspaper, first I will cover the budget. Okay, part 1. Part 1 I will cover budget, and then in part 2 I will cover these 4 articles that have come in the today's newspaper, and I have shared the PDF of the budget notes as well as these articles on the Telegram channel. You can just download it. Okay, so I am not making separate 2 videos. Why? Just for the sake of your convenience, because it doesn't make any sense. Today's entire paper is budget only. One more thing I want to tell, that as I'm going to cover this particular budget, guys, understand this particular thing, that I will cover both the static past part of the budget that will be important for your prelims examination, both polity and economy, as well as I am going to cover the present budget. I am going to cover the present budget, budget announcements, etc. that has come here. Is it clear or not? Fine. Uh, Sir, what about government schemes mentioned in budget? We will see all the government schemes, whatever has been mentioned in the budget. Don't worry, I have covered that all. I have prepared entire presentation for that thing. Don't worry, all the schemes we are going to see. Okay, so I hope, guys, that the class flow is very clear to you. I hope that how we are going to proceed for the today's class is very clear to you. Now, moving. So first, what we are going to do? First we'll see budget. Okay, and after that, just a minute. So first we'll see budget, and after that we'll be starting up with the other 4 articles that are there in the today's newspaper. Now, guys, when we talk about the budget, okay, I will be covering all the static and the present budgets highlight, don't worry. So when we talk about budget officially, there is no word as budget mentioned in the Constitution of India. There when we talk about budget means an annual financial statement of the government. Annual financial statement of the government, which government has to present in the parliament. This annual financial statement will contain all the details about the revenue that government is going to raise, the receipts that government will get, and the expenditure that government is going to do. Moreover, what government's financial vision is for the next year, that all data is presented in one document, and the document is called as annual financial statement, and popularly we call this annual financial statement as budget. Why budget? Because, guys, earlier the word budget comes from the word budget, which means a brown color leather bag. So earlier when budget was presented, documents were carried in that brown color leather bag, which meant budget, and from there the word budget has come. Okay, now when we talk about the budget, it is not just the accounts statement about the receipts and expenditure. It reflects the vision of the government. Moreover, in budget, government also comes out with many of the schemes, announcements, many of the proposals for the next year. So it outlines the holistic vision of the government for the future. Now, as we talk about, just a minute, guys. Fine. So as we talk about the budget, we have article number 112 in the Constitution of India, and this article 112 puts an obligation on the government that government has to lay down annual financial statement before the parliament by the president. Okay. So basically guys, who is on basically on whose shoulder the responsibility is imposed? Fine. So parliament by the president. Okay, parliament by the president has to lay down the budget, but actually who reads the budget statement? It is read by the finance minister. Okay, so article number 112. Okay, it will contain estimated receipts, estimated expenditure, and constitution provides one thing very clearly, that whenever the budget is being presented, there needs to be the charged expenditure needs to be shown separately, and other expenditures need to be shown separately. What is charged expenditure, guys? Charged expenditure is that expenditure, for example, when we talk about the salaries, okay, when we talk about the salaries of many of the constitutional authorities, fine. So their salaries are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. Fine, you don't need to get it approved every year, but in the budget. Okay, and expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India. Now, as we are going in the new financial year, many schemes, we need money for that. For that, we need to draw the money out of the Consolidated Fund of India. So expenditures, charged expenditure and other expenditures, all they are to be shown in the budget. Now, when we talk about the budget, what exactly the budget contains? Budget contains the estimates of all the revenues and capital receipts. We'll understand that what is the difference between the revenue and capital receipt. Then it also contains the ways and means to raise the revenue, from where the money will come. Okay, estimates of expenditure, details of the actual receipts and expenditures of the closing financial year. Okay, now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the budget, now see this particular thing. Right now, government has announced the budget for 2023-2024. Before that, there was the budget of 2022-2023 that came the last year. Now, last year, government would have given some of the data. Now, that particular data will be revised in this particular budget. Okay, I will just show you that particular thing. When we talk about the budget, in budget, all these particular data will be presented. Number one, actual figures of the revenue and expenditure of the previous year. Okay, I'll explain it. Budget and revised figures for the current year and estimates for the upcoming year. For example, guys, as we talk about this particular budget, that is 23-24, what data it will contain? Actual figures of the 21-22. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that basically financial year 2020 financial year 2022-23 is going on right now. Financial year 22-23 is going on right now. It will go on till 31st of March. So obviously we don't have complete data about this particular financial year because it will go for 2 more months. But the point is that we still have some revised data for this particular budget. Now guys, this particular budget was presented last year on the 1st of the February. So therefore, government could have given some estimate. We went through that entire year, 10 months have happened. Now we will find that whatever estimate government has given, whether those estimates were true, whether those estimates were not true, whatever the deviations are there on the estimates that government gave 10 months back. So basically, the budget and the revised figure for 2022-2023, they will be there. Okay, the year before that, the year which ended on 31st March last year, for that year we have a complete data. So the complete data of the 21-22 will be given. Okay, then estimates for the upcoming year, that is 23-24. Now guys, this new financial year will start from 1st April and will go to the March 31st of next year, that is 2024. So upcoming year's estimates will be given, present year revised figure will be given, and the last year's actual data will be presented in this particular budget. So all these datas are there in budget. Now when we talk about, guys, the receipts and expenditures. As we are talking about it, the budget majorly contains the receipts and expenditures. So we majorly have three accounts. You might have heard about it: Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, and Public Accounts of India. Let's talk a little bit about them also. So the main is the Consolidated Fund of India. Consolidated Fund of India, which is mentioned in Article 266 subclause 1. So Consolidated Fund of India, you can understand it like the main account of the government of India. All the money, most of the money, not all the money, most of the money that government is receiving, it is receiving in the Consolidated Fund of India directly. And all the expenditures that are made, they are also to be made from the Consolidated Fund of India. Now, as the budget is now being presented, see, understand this thing. What is budget? Government provides that for the next 1 year, we are going to spend this much money. And let's say we are going to spend 1 lakh crore rupees. So government will withdraw this 1 lakh crore rupees for the next year. From where government will withdraw that money? From the Consolidated Fund of India. So this Consolidated Fund of India, all the revenues, for example, the tax revenues, personal income tax which government is receiving, it comes here. Corporate income tax, it comes here in this account. Then other taxes, custom duties, excise duties, non-tax revenue such as license fees, okay, dividends, profit from PSUs, all these monies that government is receiving, it comes in this particular fund, that is Consolidated Fund of India. Okay. Moreover, government is raising loans. Government is issuing bonds. Government is issuing treasury bills. Many internal and external loans are being raised. Okay, so that particular money will also be received in this Consolidated Fund of India. If government has given loan to somebody and that person has paid back the loan, then that money will also come in the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, so all the money is coming in Consolidated Fund of India. So therefore, all the government's expenditures will also be met from this Consolidated Fund of India. And now, as the budget has been presented, government is asking the money for the next year, that is the year starting from the 1st April to next year 31st March, we are asking money, and that money will be drawn from this Consolidated Fund of India, because this is the main account. Now, if any money is to be withdrawn from this Consolidated Fund of India, government needs an approval of the Parliament. Without Parliament's permission, not even a single rupee can be withdrawn from this Consolidated Fund of India. However, there are certain expenditures which are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. For example, Supreme Court judges' salary. That automatically will get deducted. But even that expenditure is to be shown. But for that, special permission is not taken for every time. Okay. Then moving on, guys, in this particular direction. So what I'm telling you about the three major accounts that India has, because we are talking about the receipts and expenditures. So we discussed the Consolidated Fund of India mentioned in Article 266 subclause 1. Now moving to the public account of India. So guys, what is the public account of India? All the money that the government is receiving, fine, which doesn't comes in the Consolidated Fund of India, that money comes in public accounts of India. Now see this particular thing, guys, that there are the small saving schemes. Okay. People are, now understand this thing, many small saving schemes are there, for example, which are being run by the post office. People are putting that money, but this money is not of government. Government has to return back that particular money. So basically, the money that is being raised through the small saving schemes, the money that is being raised into the provident fund, all these money, they are put into the public accounts of India. Okay. And then Contingency Fund of India is also there, 267, Article 267 subclause 1. Now this particular fund is maintained to it is an emergency fund of India. So to meet with some unforeseen contingency, if there is a kind of a such kind of a disaster, etc., that has come, so we will be using it. Okay. Now, as we talk about budget, guys, what is the structure of budget? Structure of budget is that there is the budget will be divided in two parts, that is revenue budget and capital budget. Now when we talk about the revenue budget, in revenue budget there will be two parts, that is revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. Now when we talk about, guys, the capital budget will be also be having then two parts, that is capital receipts and capital expenditure. What do we mean by, or what do we understand by this word revenue receipt, capital receipt, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure? So basically guys, basically when we talk about the revenue receipts, just a minute, okay. So guys, as we talk about this particular revenue budget contains all those items, fine, which neither lead to change in the assets nor lead to the change in liabilities. Now see this particular thing, government is spending a lot of money in paying salaries to the employees. Now when government is paying salary, government is using a lot of money to maintain the law and order, government is using money to ensure sanitation, cleanliness in the society. Now this money, neither it is leading to creation of asset, nor this money is leading to the reduction of any liability. So usually the money that government is spending, which is not impacting any asset or liability, or the government that money is receiving, which again is not building any asset. Okay, so these expenditures as these receipts are called as the revenue part of budget. Then there is a capital budget. What is capital budget, guys? Now see this thing. For example, government raised a loan. Government raised a loan. Obviously, when government will raise a loan, money will come to the government. But as it is a loan, it increases the liability. So what type of receipt it is? It is a capital receipt. Okay, so many times government does certain transactions which either changes their asset, or which changes their liabilities. Fine, I'll show the examples of them also, and then it will become more clear. Understand this particular thing. For example, government had taken a loan. So what will happen? Government's liability will increase, or government has given a loan to somebody else. Okay, so these are the capital expenditure. I'll just show you the examples. So as we talk about the receipts, the example of revenue receipts and the example of capital receipts. So in revenue receipts, we have two types of receipts: tax revenue receipts and non-tax revenue receipts. And in capital receipts, we have debt creating receipts and non-debt creating receipts. Let's understand them in little bit more detail. So when we talk about, guys, the tax revenue, okay, so within the revenue receipts, the tax revenue comes. So what is the tax revenue? All the money that government is receiving through different type of taxes. For example, excise duty on petrol, diesel, natural gas, fine, custom duty government is receiving, GST, goods and services tax, corporation tax, which is the tax imposed on the companies, income tax, many other taxes and duties are there. All these monies that government is receiving, all these receipts, they are called as the tax receipts, and they will be coming under the revenue receipts. Okay, all the tax money will come into the revenue receipts. Okay, then there are the non-tax revenues also. Non-tax revenues, government is getting money. For example, interest receipts. Okay, so government has given the loan to state government, and on that loan government is receiving the interest. Okay, so that is government's non-tax revenue, that is interest government is receiving on the money that government has given the loan. Dividend and profits. So now you know this thing, that there are many PSUs, public sector undertakings are there. So these PSUs are generating some profit. Okay, government has invested some money in some shares, fine, okay, or such kind of a things. So government is receiving the profits from PSUs, government is receiving the profits which are being made by the nationalized banks. So this is the non-tax revenue. Okay, so as we talk about the revenue receipts, it consists tax revenue, it consists non-tax revenue. Tax revenue is this, non-tax revenue is this. Then capital receipts. So what comes in the capital receipts? Capital receipts are of two types: debt creating, which creates some liability on you; non-debt creating, which doesn't create any liability on you. So when we talk about the capital receipts, what are the debt creating capital receipts? Now government is obligated to pay the money here. So for example, market loan, government took some market loan, issuance of special securities to public sector banks, government issued security and took money in return. Obviously that money has to be paid back after some years. Then treasury bills, gold bonds, external debt being taken by some other developmental agency of some other country, or from some other country loan is being taken. So these are the debt creating capital receipts. We are receiving the money, but this money has to be paid back. Okay, so these are the debt creating capital receipts. Then there are the non-debt creating capital receipts. You receive such money, it will not create any debt on you. For example, what is it? Recovery of loan. Suppose government gave a loan to state government or government gave loan to some other country. Now they have received that particular loan. Okay, so recovery of loan. Proceeds from disinvestment. Okay, now let's say government is a stakeholder in LIC and government is selling its stake. So the money that government will receive, this is a capital receipt. This is a capital receipt. And what type of capital receipt? Non-debt capital receipt. It is not going to it has not to be paid back. Government sold its stake in LIC, government sold its stake in any of the PSUs, and this money will be received. So these are the majorly receipts. Okay, so revenue receipts are of majorly two types, tax and non-tax, and capital receipts are of debt creating, non-debt creating. I have shown you the examples. Okay, and one more thing is, guys, there that I have uploaded this file, this presentation on the Telegram channel. You can download it from the Telegram channel. Fine. Now the expenditures. So guys, as we have seen receipts, obviously then there will be the expenditure. Revenue expenditure will be there and capital expenditure will be there. So as we talk about the expenditure, guys, let's first of all talk about revenue expenditure. Let's first of all talk about the revenue expenditure. Now, what is revenue expenditure? Any expenditure that does not add to asset or reduce liabilities. Any expenditure, you are spending money. You are spending money. Now, guys, I can spend money to pay back for the loans that I have taken. If I pay back for the loans that I have taken, what will happen? My liability will be reduced. Or I can spend money to buy an asset. I can spend money to buy some land. Obviously, what will happen? My asset will be increased. Now, those expenditures are capital expenditures. Revenue expenditures are different. Revenue expenditures are different. Understand this thing. I am spending money. I am spending money, okay, for eating something. Now, that neither creates asset nor it reduces my liability. Okay, I am spending money. Let's say I am going to a salon, and in that salon I am taking a haircut and I am taking some services. Now, neither I got any asset nor my liabilities got reduced. So these are the revenue expenditures. Expenditure which neither will create some asset nor will reduce your liabilities. What are these expenditures? These expenditures are regular, they are recurring, and they are short term. For example, money that government will spend for giving subsidies, money that government will spend for giving pension, that money that government will spend for sanitation operations, all these things. I will show you the example of this as well. Fine, then it will become more clear. Okay, just a minute, let's take their examples. Now, so when we talk about the examples, okay, as we talk about the examples, interest payment. Fine. Now see this thing, government has taken the loan, and now when government took the loan, that will be a receipt. That receipt will come in capital portion. But when government will pay interest on that loan, obviously we will pay money, we'll spend, we will do expenditure, and that expenditure will come in the revenue expenditure. So interest payment, subsidies, food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, fuel subsidy, grants to states and foreign government. Now we have given grant. Okay, grants are not payable, they are not paid back. So we are giving grant to the state government, we are giving grant to some other foreign government. Pension money, we are giving, government is giving a lot of salaries. Expenditure or defense and police services. Now guys, in defense also there will be some capital expenditure. For example, we are procuring some machinery, we are building some asset. Here, when we talk about the defense, the money that we are using for example, paying salaries of the defense forces, all such kind of an expenditures will come. Capital expenditures will not come. Then social services, money being spent in MG Narega, money being spent in all such kind of services. Okay. Then what are the capital expenditure? So we have seen the revenue expenditure. Okay, now we'll see the capital expenditure. Earlier, revenue receipts and capital receipts we have seen, now we are seeing expenditure. So revenue expenditure we have seen, and now we'll see capital expenditure. So capital expenditure and any asset expenditure which creates an asset or reduces the liability. For example, I spend money and I bought a land. What happened? My asset got created. Secondly, I spend money and I reduced my liability. For example, I have taken a loan in the past and now I have paid back that loan. Obviously, my liability will reduce. So these kind of expenditures are called as the capital expenditures. Fine. They are irregular. They are non-recurring. Okay. And what are the examples of such capital expenditures? Repayment of loan by the government of India. Okay, purchase of any machinery, construction of asset, for example, government constructed port, government constructed highway, infrastructure projects by the government. So these are the main three things that will be coming in this particular direction. Okay guys, first of all tell me, is it clear or not? Okay, is building road infrastructure revenue expenditure or capital expenditure? You can see this thing that it is an example of the capital expenditure. Okay, now moving on guys in this particular direction. So we also have certain things called as the deficits. Now let's understand that what are these deficits largely. Okay, what are these deficits? Now as we talk about guys the deficits, so basically deficit is any shortfall. Okay, for example, you received 100 rupees and you made an expenditure. Of 200 rupees. So your receiving is 100, your expenditure is 200. So there is minus 100 rupees. So this minus 100 or this 100 rupees extra that you have spent, this will create a deficit. Now we have different types of deficits. Let's understand these deficits one by one. So number one, there is a revenue deficit. Okay, now we know this particular thing guys, that budget is presented in two parts, capital part and then the revenue part. So what is revenue deficit? So it refers to the excess of total revenue expenditure that government has done over the revenue receipt. Okay, so we have seen revenue receipt, for example, money that government is receiving by tax, and then expenditure government is doing, revenue expenditure, that is expenditure is being done on salaries, pensions, such kind of a thing, interest payment. So when there will be mismatch, when we will spend more and will receive less, then there will be a deficit. That deficit is called as a revenue deficit. So revenue deficit, here you can see it is total revenue expenditure minus it is total revenue expenditure का formula क्या है, tax revenue plus non tax revenues. Okay, sorry, what is the formula for revenue deficit? Total revenue deficits formula. What the formula for revenue deficit will be? Total revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. Okay, now as we talk about the deficits, there is also one more type of deficit, that is effective revenue deficit. Now what is effective revenue deficit? Now guys, see this particular thing, that it is a difference between grants for capital asset creation and revenue deficit. Now if you just pay attention, and guys, if you yes, so we have revenue expenditure. Listen very carefully, very easy concept. We have revenue, there is a revenue side, we have revenue expenditure, we have revenue receipts. When our receipts will be less and when our expenditure is more, what we will get? We will get a kind of a deficit. Now when we talk about the revenue receipt, when we talk about the revenue expenditure, you see, within revenue expenditure, there is also one entry, that is grant to the states and foreign government, grant given to the states and the foreign government. Now, understand this particular thing, that when we are giving the grant to the state government, some grants are being used for creation of some asset. Some grants are being used for the creation of some assets. For example, we give grant to the state government and state government used that money and created a kind of a rural connectivity road. So we do its treatment. Now what is the effective revenue deficit? Total revenue deficit. Let's say total revenue deficit is 1000 crore rupees. Out of that 1000 crore rupees, now this 1000 crore rupees deficit that is there, it will also include the money that you have given to the state government. Let's say you gave 200 crore rupees to the state government as the grant. They used 100 crore rupees out of this 200 crore and use this 100 crore rupees to create some asset. So what we will do? We will reduce this much money from the revenue deficit. 100 crore rupees will be reduced from the 1000 crore rupees. You get 900 crore. So if you read this statement, what is effective revenue deficit? Effective revenue deficit is the difference between grant for capital asset creation and revenue deficit. Grant to whom? Grant to the state government. Okay, so total revenue deficit 1000 crore rupees. You gave some grant. Some of that grant was used by the state government to create asset. So reduce that particular money. It aims to deduct the asset exhausted from borrowing to finance capital expenditure. So I hope that you have got this particular concept. You have got this particular concept. Okay guys, first of all, please hit a likes button if you are able to understand all these things that we are taking up here. Guys, are you able to understand or not? Please hit a like button if you are understanding all these concepts, and if there is any doubt, please ask your doubt. Yes guys, if there is any doubt, you may please ask your doubt. Yes guys, please tell me. Is it clear or not? Fine. Moving on. Okay. Then there is one more deficit, that is the fiscal deficit. So what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is difference between government's total expenditure and its total receipt. So it includes both the sides, revenue as well as capital. So fiscal deficit, revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure minus revenue receipt plus capital receipt except borrowings. So that is the fiscal deficit. Okay. Now guys, when we talk about the fiscal deficit also indicates the borrowings that government has to make. It also indicates the borrowing that government has to make. Clear? Now understand this thing. Suppose you received 100 rupees and you spend, let's say your expenditure is 200 rupees. What had happened? 100 rupees you spent extra. 100 rupees you spent extra. So as you have spent 100 rupees extra, obviously those 100 rupees have to be paid back. Those 100 rupees have to be paid back. How you will pay back that extra money? You will borrow. You will borrow. So when we talk about the fiscal deficit means additional financial resources that are needed. Or fiscal deficit also means the money that government has to borrow or in this particular year to pay back. Okay. Repeat effect live RD. What it means, dear, please write it clearly. Okay. So again guys, understand this particular thing. It is an indicator of the increase in future liabilities. Fine. Obviously, when there is a 100 rupees deficit, we need to pay back. Okay. How we'll spend extra? We can spend extra only by taking a loan. So whatever a fiscal deficit, it indicates the loan that government is going to take. Okay, it will increase the future obligations. Okay, then there is also one more, that is a primary deficit. Primary deficit. Now, what is the primary deficit? From the total fiscal deficit minus the interest payments. Minus the interest payment. Now, guys, if you remember here, I'll just show you this entry. Okay, revenue expenditure. So we see the revenue expenditure. In revenue expenditure, there is one entry, that is interest payment. Interest payment. Now, when we take the fiscal deficit, guys, in the fiscal deficit, both revenue and capital part are being included. So in this fiscal deficit, also there is a component of interest payments that we have made. What is this interest? Loans that we have taken on the past, we are paying interest on them today. So the point is that what is primary deficit? In primary deficit, we take the total fiscal deficit, let's say 10,000 crore rupees. Just an example, 10,000 crore rupees. Out of that, we will minus the interest payment. Let's say 200 crore rupees are the interest. So 9,800 crore rupees. It is the primary deficit. Okay. So this is, guys, the basic concepts that are there. I hope, guys, that you are able to understand these concepts. And guys, if you are liking the video, please do hit the like button, as it took a lot time to prepare this entire content. Okay, so as you can see that we will be discussing the budget. But before discussing the budget, all these concepts which are highly important, fine. So please do hit the like button if you appreciate it. Now, moving on. Okay, so moving on, the stages of the budget enactment, how the budget is actually passed in the parliament. So with respect to the polity, we are going to see this particular session. So number one, there is a stage when the budget is presented in the Lok Sabha. Then after that, there will be the general discussion that will happen. I'll discuss that in detail. Scrutiny by the departmental committees will be done. Then there will be the voting on the demands for grant. then appropriation bill will be passed, then the finance bill will be passed, and finally the budget will be enacted. Finally the budget will be enacted. So these are the 6 stages in which budget is passed in the parliament. Now let's see them one by one. Now first of all, the budget presentation. Now guys, we see this particular thing that president causes to lay budget in the house, but actually finance minister is the one who reads the budget speech. So first of all, budget will be presented in the parliament, finance minister will come, will bring the budget, and budget speech will be read in the parliament. If you have seen the TV, Fine Sansad TV yesterday, you might have seen that. So first of all, what happened in the Lok Sabha, the finance minister presents the budget, reads the budget speech, and in that budget speech, she will read that what are the major proposals for the coming year, what receipts we will receiving, what expenditure we will made. Okay, now when we talk about the budget, guys, you might be knowing this thing already, that before 2017, we used to have 2 parts of the budget. One was the general budget and other was the railway budget. Okay, so before 2017, railway budget was different, general budget was different. And in 2017, both the railway budget and general budget got merged, and now only one budget is presented, that is general budget. General budget. Okay, then moving on guys, in this particular article, general discussion. Okay, so as the budget will be presented here, okay, so first of all, there will be the general discussion. So here what the people are going to do, okay, the members, they will generally discuss the budget. Okay, they are not going to go in detail. They'll not be commenting that whether we will approve money, we will not approve the money. There will be the general principles of the budget that can be discussed. Okay, after that particular thing, what happened here, there can be no motions, there can no grant approval that will be made. Is it clear or not? Okay. Okay, there is one comment, sir, today you failed to start with a quote. Guys, actually, I am preparing this presentation, more than 100 pages of the presentation since yesterday. Okay, so you know this thing that yesterday I was involved in some personal matter. There were even I have my regular classes. So yes, since yesterday I have prepared all these things, collecting content and all that thing. So I will so because of that particular thing, there was a lot of thing, fine, that we have to do here. Apart from that, there are other 4 articles also that I had covered and provided you in the notes. So fine, I hope that you will understand the work that goes in back. So there, I hope that you will understand that thing. Okay, scrutiny by departmental standing committee. So we have seen that first of all, budget will be presented in the house. Okay, and then there will be a normal general discussion on the bill that will happen. Okay, and then what will happen, then the budget, that the house will go in a recess. And there will be the departmental standing committees. Now these departmental standing committees, they will scrutinize this entire budget. So for 3 to 4 weeks, what the house is going to do, these departmental standing committees are going to do, they will study clause by clause provision of the budget. Now in budget, government is asking the money for the 1 year. So these committees will study that whether we can approve these expenditures, this money or not. And this standing committee will present a report to the parliament, and on that basis of the parliament, the further discussion of the budget will happen. Okay, so this is about it. Okay, now the next, voting on demand for grants. Now what will happen? So for 3 to 4 weeks, departmental standing committees have studied that bill, had given the report. Now that report will come to the MPs. Now what MPs will do? MPs will study these particular reports and then will vote on each demand for grant. Now what is this demand for grant? For example, government will say that we need 50,000 crore rupees for MG Narega for 1 year. So give us 50,000 crore rupees. From where government is asking that 50,000 crore rupees? From the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, then government will say that we need to spend 1 lakh crore rupees for defense. Give us this 1 lakh crore rupees. So from where government is asking? Again from the Consolidated Fund of India. So basically what happens, government asks for the grant from the Consolidated Fund of India. And I told you this particular thing, that not even a single rupee can be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India if the parliament doesn't approves. If the parliament doesn't approves. So understand this particular thing, guys, that here the MPs will now vote that whether we approve it or whether we don't approve it. Here the MPs will vote. Here MPs can also move the motion for reduction of a grant, can move the cut motion, okay. And once that all these votings, all those grants have been approved, then an appropriation bill will be passed. What is this appropriation bill? Appropriation bill exactly is the bill by which total money that has been voted by the parliament, let's say 20,000 crore for MG Narega, 30,000 for PM Poshan, 1 lakh crore rupees for defense. So total money that has been voted by the parliament, now that entire money will be withdrawn for the coming year from the Consolidated Fund of India, and for that we need to pass an appropriation bill. We need to pass an appropriation bill. Okay, so this is something. The appropriation bill will be passed, which will lead for the withdrawal of the funds from the Consolidated Fund of India. Now we have article number 114. Article 114 simply clearly provides this thing, that the government can withdraw money from the Consolidated Fund India only after receiving the approval from the parliament. If parliament doesn't approve, government cannot withdraw the money. So here approval or that appropriation bill has to get passed. Now when we talk about, guys, in this particular capacity, once you have discussed all the grants, any amendment and approval in the appropriation bill is not allowed. Now once this appropriation bill is passed, it is sent to the Rajya Sabha. Now understand this thing, Rajya Sabha's power is very limited here. First of all, for the grants, Rajya Sabha cannot vote, and even when this appropriation bill will be sent, Rajya Sabha can recommend any amendment. It can recommend the amendment, but it cannot move the amendment. If it is the Lok Sabha's wish if they want to implement the Rajya Sabha's recommendations or not. Otherwise, Rajya Sabha doesn't have a much of a power with respect to the appropriation bill. And then there is the finance bill. Now what is the finance bill? So basically, guys, understand this particular thing. For example, I have told you that this particular year government has proposed that the tax slabs will be changed. Okay, if you are earning up to 7 lakh rupees, you don't need to pay the taxes. Okay, so basically finance bill gives effect to the taxation proposal or to any other changes that the government intends to bring. So apart from the expenditure and receipts, government also tries to bring some kind of other changes. So it will be legalized by the passing of the finance bill. Okay, so this is about that thing. Okay, now when we talk about the budget could be a balanced budget. Balanced budget is that budget in which receipts and expenditures are balanced. The amount of money that you are receiving, the same amount of money you are spending. Okay, so government's revenues and receipts are same. Surplus budget, where government spends less and raise more. And then deficit budget, where government spends more, raise less. Okay, now when we talk about any developing country, whenever we talk about any developing country, usually in the developing countries the budget happens to be deficit because developmental priorities are more, and therefore government has to spend usually the more here. Okay, then moving on, the next one, the budget 23-24, the brief highlights. Budget 23-24, the brief highlights. Let's talk about the important highlights for the budget. Now first of all, as we talk about this particular budget, okay guys, one more thing I am telling you very clearly, that you are not required to go beyond what we discuss here for the sake of our examination, because whatever you need, all that thing has been duly covered here in this presentation. Now see this particular thing. As we talk about this particular budget, this budget is the first budget of Amrit Kal. So the Amrit Kal, these are the 25-year long journey till 2047. Till 2047. So 2047 will be 100-year. It will be the 100th anniversary of Indian independence. So now the 25-year period Amrit Kal has been started. So this is the first budget of Amrit Kal, and it has a high hopes. Okay. Now when we talk about the growth patterns for the India, so basically guys, the budget provides this particular thing. Even economic survey has given us this particular data. If we see the present year, that is 22-23, the GDP will grow approximately at the rate of 7%, at the rate of 7%. So economic growth, GDP growth will be at around 7%. However, if we talk about the coming year, that is 23-24, there the GDP growth will be between 6 to 6.8%. Okay, so for coming year, GDP growth will be at 6 to 6.8%, that is 23-24, the upcoming financial year. But for the year that is ending, the GDP growth rate is expected to be at 7%, and this is the highest among the major economies around the world. This is the highest among the major economies around the world. So this is something which is worth appreciative. Okay, then further moving on, in this particular budget, first of all, government has announced that they are going to increase the capital expenditure. They are going to increase the capital expenditure. Now, if you remember, we have discussed anyhow revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is that expenditure which will reduce your liabilities or which will increase your assets, So largely government is going to invest a lot of money which will increase the assets. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that in India there is a lot of requirement of infrastructure for economy, for economic reforms, for economic improvement. Now whenever we invest a lot of money in capital expenditure, what will happen? It leads to a lot of growth. For example, government is constructing a highway. For that particular thing, you will hire laborers, you will acquire raw material, okay, and when that highway will be constructed, it will reduce the cost, logistic cost. So understand that these capital expenditures, they have the long term benefits for economy. So therefore, often it has been said that in order to bring the growth, government needs to spend more and more. What type of expenditure? Capital expenditure is needed to be increased. Now, so basically, now government has provided, now see this thing, even when we talk about the Great Depression of 1929 that came in US, 1929 Great Depression. So how the US dealt with that Great Depression? US invested a lot in the infrastructure, in capital expenditure. So now post-pandemic recovery will be carried through raising the capital expenditure. So this is something. So total capital expenditure will be around 10 lakh crore rupees. Is it clear or not? Now let me show you this thing. So basically, guys, here I present you with a kind of a chart, okay, a kind of a graph here. So if we see post 2015-16, every year government's capital expenditure is increasing. So when we talk about government's capital expenditure for 23-24, budgetary estimate is that government is going to spend around 10 lakh crore rupees, 10 lakh crore rupees as capital expenditure. Is it clear or not? And these many, around 3.7 lakh crore rupees will also be given as a grant in aid for capital assets. State government will be given the money so that they can build the capital assets there. Okay, I want to guys tell you one more concept here, effective capital expenditure. Now understand these things, that these things are asked in the examination. For example, what do you understand by effective capital expenditure? So basically, sum of the capital expenditure and grant in aid for creation of capital assets. Now you see this particular thing. What is effective capital expenditure? Now 10 lakh crore rupees government will spend for creation of capital assets, that is government's capital expenditure. Now usually the money that government is giving to the state government as a grant, that money is a revenue expenditure. But if government has given the money to the state government as a grant and that money has been used to make some capital asset, for example, making some school, building some road or such kind of a thing, that will be used here. So government's capital expenditure plus grant given to states, plus grant given to the state for the creation of capital assets. You include these two things and you get effective capital expenditure. So here if we see 10 lakh crore rupees government will be spending for capital expenditure, and government will give 3.7 lakh crore rupees to the state government. Okay, now that is grant. Actually it will come in the revenue part, but when we include these two components together, 13.7 lakh crore rupees, what it is this 13.7 lakh crore rupees, it is the effective capital expenditure. So here we see effective capital expenditure will also get increased. Effective capital and expenditure will also get increased from last year to this year, and even from that year to the previous year and the present year. So guys, first of all, I hope that you are able to understand it. Now, then some of the predictions for 23-24. If you remember, already we have seen the deficits. So revenue deficit might stay at 2.9%. Effective revenue deficit. So revenue deficit, difference between revenue expenditure and revenue receipts, 2.9%. Effective revenue deficit will be around 1.7%. Fiscal deficit, this much. Primary deficit, fine. So guys, already we have discussed what these words mean. Just few minutes back, we have discussed that what these deficit mean. This question, sir, why do GDP is less in coming year compared to this previous year? So there is a question that why GDP is less in the coming year. Now guys, see this thing, it is because of the favorable, basically when we talk about the coming year, first of all, difference is not that much. It has been estimated to be around 6.8%. But there is one reason for that particular thing is that according recently, if you remember, we have discussed the World Economic Forum meet that happened. In that World Economic Forum meet, Chief Economist Outlook was released, and in that Chief Economist Outlook, it was said that coming year, 2/3 countries will face inflation and recession. Now, obviously, when the global recession will come, when the global inflation will come, India will also be impacted for that particular thing. So, majorly because of the Russia-Ukraine war that is going on, inflation that is going on, and a kind of a global slump, slowdown that is expected. So, because of that, India will also get impacted. Then, moving on. Okay, so guys, we will see majorly the trends with respect to the government's revenue expenditure. Now, these broad trends, you are not required to see the exact, but just you need to see in ascending or descending order, because such things can be asked. So, majorly, from where government is receiving the money? What is the total, what is the biggest areas from which government is receiving the revenue? Rupee come from. So, corporation tax in a rupee, 15 paisa is coming from a corporation tax. So the bigger the corporation tax, income tax, and even bigger than that is the goods. Here if we see, so 15 paisa from 1 rupee comes from corporation tax, 15 paisa out of 1 rupee comes from income tax, then 17 paisa out of a rupee comes from the GST, and then 34 paisa total money that government is going to receive, 34 paisa will be from borrowings and other kind of liabilities. Then we have non-debt capital receipts and all such other kind of receipts. So what are the major receipts? Whatever the major receipts are there, if we talk about the non-debt creating receipts, it will create a debt. So non-debt creating receipt, the biggest is GST, 17 paisa, corporation tax, 15 paisa, income tax, 15 paisa out of 1 rupee. Okay. Now, if we see trend in the net receipt of the cap center has increased. The total net receipts that the government is receiving, it has increased over the years, and we can see this particular thing. Fine, successively over the years, government's receipts, government's tax revenues are increasing. Fine. Now, basically, guys, if we talk about the prelims, they have asked the questions where they ask some trends. For example, this thing has successively increased. This thing has exponentially increased. This thing has reduced. So if you see the trend with respect to the government's tax revenues have consistently increased in the past few years. For example, here you see 8.2, 9, 9.4, 11, 12.4, 13.2. So there's a consistent increase that has been there in government's tax revenues. Okay. So guys, here we see that in between pandemic came, but still that the trajectory of consistent increase has been maintained. Now, where rupee goes to? What is government's major expenditure? Now, you see this thing that you need to understand that where government is spending the major money. It's not like that you need to remember the exact numbers, but broad trends, ascending order or descending order. Fine, ascending or descending order, that is more than sufficient. So, where governments, now here if you see, interest payment. So if government is paying 1 rupee, 20 paisa out of 1 rupee is being paid for the interest payment. Then central sector scheme, excluding the outlay for the defense and subsidy. So many central sector schemes are there where government is running the schemes. Now, there is two type of scheme, central sector scheme, central sponsored scheme. Central sector scheme, entire money will be paid by government. Central sponsored scheme, the money will be shared between the state and the center. So, a major expenditure is going on the central sector schemes. Then guys, a lot of money is also going on the defense subsidies, okay, but they are not that much. Biggest expenditure of the government that is there, number one, okay, number one, interest payment. Number one, interest payment. Number two, state share of taxes and duties. Okay, so government is giving money to the states also. Okay, so basically guys, even if you see this particular thing, 15th Finance Commission has provided this thing that the 41% of the money that the government is receiving in the taxes have to be given to the states. So states also have certain share of the taxes and duties. So they are being given money, and then the money going for the central sector scheme. So that is about it. Then major trends of items in the expenditure. So area wise guys, sector wise, okay, I hope that it is clear. I hope that it is clear to you, and if it is not clear, guys, please download this notes. Now see this thing. These questions can be asked that which area government spends the maximum or which area government spends the minimum. They can give you 4 options in the prelims examination. So here if we see social welfare, then after the social welfare we spend in urban development, then we spend in health, after that we spend in education, then yes, we spend in agriculture and allied activities, then rural development, and then transportation. So here you can see social welfare, urban development, health, okay, education, agriculture, rural development, and then transport. This is the major expenditures that government is doing area wise. This is the area wise. Okay, now when we talk about the subsidies, there can also be the questions that can be asked in the prelims examination with respect to the trends, that where the major subsidy of government is going. So the highest subsidy, fine, so we have food, fertilizers and fuels. Food, fertilizers and fuel. This is the order, fine. Then further moving on. Okay, so the sources of financial fiscal deficit. Now you see this particular thing guys, that government is having the fiscal deficit. Now if I tell you the deficits, so fiscal deficit of around 5.9% government is going to commit. Okay, fiscal deficit for this coming year 23-24, fiscal deficit of 5.9%. So from where the money will come to fill that fiscal deficit? Okay, so basically the government will be bringing the money, internal debt and some external debt. Internal debt will be the highest, and in the internal debt, market borrowings, government securities and treasury bill, they contribute the largest. They contribute the largest with respect to the money that government will mobilize. Now moving on. So other important announcements in this budget. So the first most important announcement of the budget is Saptarishi, the 7 priorities of union budget. Saptarishi, the 7 priorities of union budget. Now, what are the 7 priorities which this particular budget is going to focus upon? Number 1, inclusive development. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Often we see this thing that the development happens in such a way that the vulnerable, marginalized, poor people are not able to get the benefit of that. Now, okay, guys, please do use these keywords in your exams. Please do use these keywords in your exam. So, Saptarishi, inclusive development, reaching the last mile, reaching the last mile. Now, when we talk about reaching the last mile, even if you remember the goal of Antyodaya, it resounds with that. Infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential areas of development, green growth, youth power, financial sector. Okay, so these are the 7 priorities of this union budget, and these 7 priorities have been defined as Saptarishi. Then 4 transformative opportunities during Amrit Kal. So during these 25 years, the next 25 years, what are the 4 most important areas on which we are going to focus? 4 transformative opportunities during Amrit Kal. Number, women empowerment, economic empowerment of women. We need to increase the women labor force participation rate. We need to give more opportunities to the women, because today if we focus and if we recognize the contribution of women, it can enhance our economic potential a lot more. Okay, then PM Vikas package. We'll discuss about what is this PM Vikas package just in a minute. Then tourism will be focused. So tourism, guys, is a low hanging fruit. Tourism is a low hanging fruit. We have many flavors of tourism. For example, there can be medical tourism. There can be recreational tourism. There can be recreational tourism. Then there can be spiritual tourism. There can be spiritual tourism. Okay, all these different types of tourisms can be there. We'll be focusing on that. Green growth, we'll be focusing on green growth. Okay, now first of all, economic empowerment of women. Economic empowerment of women. For the economic empowerment of women, government is going to specially focus on national rural livelihood mission. Now Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. Now under Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, under Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, government has helped the rural women to get organized in self-help groups. What are self-help groups? Self-help groups are the organizations where people are from similar kind of a social economic profile, social economic background. They come together, they help each other for their economic upliftment, for their social upliftment. So we have the self-help groups. Okay, so women are organized in the self-help groups where they can involve in some cottage. For example, guys, when if you might have heard about the Lijjat Papad. So Lijjat Papad, fine, today it has the turnover of hundreds and thousands of crore. It got started as a self-help group. So women will be organized in these self-help groups under the National Rural Livelihood Mission, Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. Now this is going on. Government will provide even more support. The government will provide more support to these SHGs. They will be given the they will be given the financial support. They will be given more recognitions. The banks will reach out to these self-help groups. Okay. The next PM Vikas package. PM Vikas package. So government has announced PM Vikas package also. What is this PM Vikas package? It stands for Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman. Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman. Now, what is this Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman? So basically, guys, there are the many of the artisans and artists who are working in different fields. Okay, they are making carpets, they are making some handicrafts. They are, for example, there are the artisans who are making pashmina shawls. So throughout the country, we have thousands and lakhs of the artisans, but often they don't have proper tools, they don't have proper credit, they don't have capability to scale themselves. So basically, what government is going to do under the Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Vikas Saman, we will improve the quality, scale and reach of their products. We will provide them market. We will provide these artisans the training. These artisans will also be connected with the MSMEs, micro, small and medium scale enterprises, so that they can scale and they can increase their incomes. Then after that, as per this new scheme, they will be provided financial support. These artisans will be provided financial support so that they can market their products. They will be given the access to the advanced skill training. Okay, skill, they will be upskilled, they will be reskilled, upskilling and reskilling. Then knowledge of modern digital techniques and efficient green technologies. Now many number of times how their production, how their technologies, the way they are making their products, that can be created more green. Digital technologies, particularly using internet, using the marketplaces such as Amazon, Flipkart to market their products. Brand promotions, how they can use social media, how they can use other internet channels to promote their brand. Linkage with local and global markets, fine, for example, featuring them on marketplaces. Digital payment, how they can receive money by UPI, card payments, etc. Social security, insurance, etc. will also be given to them. Okay, moving on. The next is the focus on agriculture has been made. Arpit, I've been clearing my GS in Indian Statistical Service just by listening to him every day while traveling to my office. Thought made through the interview yet, but surely will. Glad, Arpit, that you are getting the benefit of the initiative. Thank you so much for your nice appreciation. Okay, so agriculture. Now, basically for agriculture, we have started some of very good initiatives in this budget. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. So guys, there will be an open platform. On that open platform, all the knowledges, all the know-hows with respect to the agriculture, information about the different government programs, etc. will be available. So digital public infrastructure for agriculture, it will be built as an open source, open standard and interoperable public good. Okay, so basically it will be a digital platform. On that digital platform, there will be the many of the government interventions that the government has done for the agriculture, they will be available so that they can be scaled and can be used for the farmers. Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program, Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program to boost availability of the disease-free quality planting material. Quality planting material. So, for example, guys, you need to have saplings of the tree. Suppose you want to establish an orchid, you want to establish a kind of an orchid garden. So planting saplings, seeds, etc., disease free planting saplings and seeds will be provided. That is the Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program. And then there is an agriculture accelerator fund. Now this agriculture accelerator fund, it will be a specific dedicated fund that will be provided to the startups, to the agricultural startups, to the agricultural startups. Now if you see Shark Tank, last year there was one person who came on the Shark Tank asking some funding for some equipment that he had prepared for the agricultural fields. Okay, so agricultural startups which can provide the marketability to farmers, which can provide better warehousing facilities to the farmers or any such kind of a thing. So if any startup for agriculture sector wants to start, they will be provided funding under the Agriculture Accelerator Fund. Then further, Global Hub for Millets. Global Hub for Millets. Now, as we talk about the millet, you already might be knowing this thing, that 2023 is being celebrated as the International Year for Millets. 2023 is being celebrated as International Year for Millets. So now the millets, they already have been rebranded by the government of India as the Nutri cereals. Now, they are also being called as the Shri Ann. Shri Ann. So millets are being called as the Shri Ann. India is the largest producer and the second largest exporter of the Shri Ann, that is millets. And now millets will be promoted even more. And Indian Institute of Millet Research in Hyderabad, Indian Institute for Millet Research in Hyderabad will be made a center of excellence for promoting millets to make India as a global hub for millets. Okay, fine. So Shri Ann, it will be made as a India's global hub for Shri Ann research. Now, on the health and education and skilling front, government, on particularly the health front, first of all, on the health front, government has provided that they will eliminate the sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease by 2047. Now, what is this sickle cell? Sickle cell. So basically, guys, when we talk about the blood, okay, the blood's most important function is to provide the oxygen to the different organs of the body. So blood contains hemoglobin and hemoglobin carries oxygen to the different parts of our body. Now sickle cell anemia, it is a genetic disorder which is caused by the presence of hemoglobin S. Hemoglobin S. Now what is it is a mutated molecule of hemoglobin and it impacts the oxygen binding capacity of the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is not able to carry oxygen. So oxygen binding capacity of hemoglobin is impacted by this thing and therefore it leads to the people suffering from the sickle cell anemia, their body organs are not able to get adequate oxygen supply. Sickle cell is also called as the Mendelian disorder. It is also called as the Mendelian disorder. Now we have to eradicate sickle cell by 2047. And this development is directly related to the tribal development. Why? Because as we talk about, guys, India, fine, the tribals in India, they have abundance of majority of the sickle cell disease patients, they are found in the tribal groups. So particularly tribals in the Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Eastern Gujarat, Northern Tamil Nadu, Kerala. Majority of the tribals here living in this region are afflicted with the sickle cell disease. Already government is running the Unmukt project. Unmukt project. So Unmukt project is being implemented by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. And Unmukt project is specifically to eliminate the sickle cell disease. To eliminate the sickle cell disease, Unmukt project is going on. And now we have taken a targeted deadline of 2047 to eradicate the sickle cell disease. Okay. Now, then after that, for the education and skilling also, one very important program had got started, that is National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents. National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents. Now, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the new education policy 2020, as we talk about the new education policy 2020, it has specifically talked about, the book promotion policy. Book promotion policy. Okay, so new education policy have talked about the book promotion policy, that we need to inculcate, we need to promote the habit of book reading in the students. And for that particular thing, National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents will be developed. Okay, and it will set up so that across the geographies, across the regions, students are able to access the quality books. Okay, apart from the National Digital Library, the physical libraries, states will also be encouraged to establish physical libraries. States will also be established to develop the physical libraries wherever these digital libraries are not possible. So at the panchayat level, at the ward level, okay, so these physical libraries will also be established. This is something that has been provided. Now, when we talk about the digital libraries, it is the responsibility. When we talk about the digital libraries, it is the responsibility of the panchayats, local bodies, that they need to provide the basic devices to them. Okay, so here we see that global hub for millets will be constructed in India. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture will be developed. Atmanirbhar clean plant program will be there. Agriculture accelerated fund will be there. We have seen PM Vikas package that will be launched. Okay, sickle cell anemia, and then we have seen National Digital Library. Okay, these are all the issues, the projects that have developed in this line. Then moving on, reaching the last mile. Reaching the last mile. So basically, as we talk about the last mile, okay, so particularly the tribal people, for their education, tribal students development, Eklavya residential schools, they will be promoted. Additional recruitment will be done. Additional recruitment of teachers, etc. will be done. Okay, for the Eklavya residential schools. Now, moreover, what government has started? Prime Minister Primitive Vulnerable Tribal Group Developmental Mission is being launched. Okay, again I'll repeat, Prime Minister Primitive Vulnerable Tribal Group Developmental Mission is being launched. Now, let's understand first of all, what do we understand by the PVTG? Okay, then we'll understand this program. So, particularly vulnerable tribal group. Okay, see, when we talk about the tribals, okay, so all the tribals are not equally vulnerable. Some tribals are more vulnerable. Some tribals are more vulnerable. Some tribals are more backward. So basically, in 1973, Dhebar Commission was created, was constituted, and Dhebar Commission provided that some tribals which are more backward, we need to treat them as a separate category, and it suggested that primitive tribal groups, a separate category, primitive tribal groups need to be created. These are those tribals which are more backward amongst all the tribals. Then in 2006, these primitive tribal groups, they got changed to PVTG, particularly vulnerable tribal group. Okay, now who are these particularly vulnerable tribal group? The people who have a pre-agricultural level of technology. The agricultural technology is very backward. Okay, economic backwardness, low level of literacy, declining or stagnant population. Okay, so these are the people who are, just a minute guys, so these are the people who are suffering, or who are the PVTGs. And when we talk about the PVTGs, there are right now 75 tribal groups that have been recognized as the PVTG, that is the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, that is the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. And understand this thing, that as we talk about the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, who defines them? They are defined by the Ministry of Home Affairs. They are defined by the Ministry of Home Affairs, not by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, not by the Ministry of Social Justice. Please keep it in your mind. Fine. So this is about them. Now they have some basic characteristics, and you can read them on the screen. For example, they are mostly homogeneous. They have a small population. Physically, they are isolated. Social institutes cast in a simple mold. They don't have complex social institution. Written language is not there. Simple technology they are using. Slower rate of change. Okay, and these are the most prominent tribal groups that we have. For example, you can see that all the tribes of Andaman and Nicobar, Jarawa, etc., all the tribes, they are PVTGs. Dongriya Kond, Chenchus of Andhra Pradesh. Now guys, often in exam, questions on tribal based question also come. What they do, they ask you, they give you the name of a tribal and they ask you that in which part, which region these tribals are found. Okay, so here we see Tolanakian, okay, Kutanayakam, Kurumbas of Kerala, Kurumbas, Irulas, Todas of Tamil Nadu. So Kurumbas are found in both Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. Then Begas, Saharias. Now they are the PVTGs from MP. Then Menakadiyas of Odisha. Then Riangs of Tripura. So all these are the particularly vulnerable tribal groups that we have. Okay. Now I told you that for the tribals, Eklavya residential model schools, more hirings will be done in Eklavya residential model schools, and Eklavya residential model schools will be promoted. So these will be the schools specifically for the tribal, for the education of the students in the tribal region. So when we talk about the tribal region, guys, in the tribal region, the students that are there, they need to be given education, but they cannot be given education as is being given to other students. So in a special way, they are to be given education. So for to imparting educations to them, the tribal blocks which have the tribal population, okay, they need to be at least 20,000 population, and 50% population needs to be of tribal. There these Eklavya model schools will be developed, and implementing body is the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Okay, then there is one more project that has got been announced by in the budget, that is the Upper Bhandara project, Upper Bhadra project. Sorry, my apologies. Upper Bhadra project. Now, what is this Upper Bhadra project? This Upper Bhadra project, it will be a micro irrigation project. Fine. Now, when we talk about the central Karnataka, so regions of central Karnataka, they don't have proper rainfalls, irrigation facilities are not properly developed. So in order to promote irrigation there, this Upper Bhadra project will be developed. Now, the funding for additional funding for the Upper Bhadra project has been announced by the center. Now, under this Upper Bhadra project, what will happen? So basically, the river between the river from the Tunga and the Bhadra rivers will be lifted, and water will be provided from Tunga and Bhadra river to the central Karnataka region, that is the Upper Bhadra project. Now when we talk about, guys, the Tunga and Bhadra, so Tunga and Bhadra, they merge in Karnataka at Shimoga district, and it makes the Tungabhadra river, and Tungabhadra river is the tributary of Krishna river. It is the tributary of Krishna river. Okay, so please keep it in your mind. Now moving on to the next one. So the funding for PM Awas Yojana has been enhanced by 66%. Okay, so the funding has been enhanced by around 66%. Now you don't need to go too much, guys, in the detail on this particular thing for the examination. Now Bharat shared repository for inscriptions will also be developed. Bharat shared repository for inscriptions. Now guys, when we talk about, there are inscriptions, fine, we have many of the historic ancient inscriptions, sometimes found on pillars, sometimes found on some walls or in such kind of things. So a digital epigraphy museum will be developed, and around 1 lakh ancient inscriptions will be digitized and will be preserved in this digital epigraphic museum in the first stage. Okay, so this is the Bharat shared repository of inscription. So this is a repository, and in this repository, almost all the inscriptions that we have, they will be digitized. In first stage, around 1 lakh inscriptions will be digitized. Now moving on. Okay, for the infrastructure and investment, government has decided that Urban Infrastructure Development Fund will be launched. Urban Infrastructure Development Fund will be launched. Now this Urban Infrastructure Development Fund, it will be around 10,000 crore rupees fund, and this fund will be used to develop infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, Okay, because often we see this thing that the big cities, they are often covered in big ticket projects, but small cities are not covered. So for that, urban infrastructure developmental fund will be started. Now point come from where these 10,000 crore rupees will be coming. Will government give the money for that? No, government will not give the money. The money will come from the priority sector lending shortfall. Priority sector lending shortfall. Now understand this thing. Basically, guys, I am explaining you this particular concept just in a simple manner, in a very simple and crude manner. So basically, when we talk about the total loans that the bank are giving, a particular portion of that loan should go to a priority towards the priority sector lending. So the total loan that banks are giving, out of that 40% of the loans, approximately 40% of the loans for the public sector banks, even for the private bank, they need to give that particular money for the priority sector lending. For example, they can give that particular money for the weaker sections. Okay, they can give that particular money for the agriculture sector. Now, suppose a bank has given 100 crore rupees a total loan. So out of the 100 crore rupees total loan, 40%, that is 40 crore of the loan, has to go for the priority sector lending. Let's say for the weaker sections, they have to be given 40 crore rupees of loan at least. But suppose bank was able to give only 20 crore. Bank was able to give only 20 crore. So 20 crore was to be given to the poor sections, weaker section, let's say for agriculture, but they were not able to give. So that money will come in this urban infrastructure development fund. So from where the money will come? The fund would be established using the PSL, priority sector lending shortfall. Priority sector lending shortfall. It will be managed by whom? National Housing Bank. Okay, so please keep it in your mind. Who will be managing it? National Housing Bank. Now, unleashing the potential. So basically, urban reforms have been started, guys, and urban regions, when we talk about the urban India has been called as the engine of growth. Okay, so first of all, there is the manhole to machine project. Manhole to machine project that will be started. What is this? Now see this thing, every year we find that so many people, they die while they are cleaning the septic tanks, sewages. So we find this thing that still many people are manually cleaning the sewages. There is the buildup of toxic gases such as the methane, etc. And because of those harmful fumes, people die. And because of that thing, even if they don't die, they also become prone to many disease. So therefore, manhole to machine, here all the cities and towns will be enabled for 100% of mechanical desludging. No manual cleaning of the manholes will be there. 100% manual desludging will be there. Okay. States and cities would be encouraged to ensure that they are taking urban planning. They are ensuring that their cities are more sustainable. Fine, their emissions will be reduced, tree cover should be increased, fine, all such kind of ease of living is to be improved. So cities need to be become more sustainable. Cities would also be given incentives to improve credit worthiness of their municipal bonds. Now what is this municipal bond? So municipal bond, guys, it is a tool for a municipality to raise the money. So cities can issue the municipal bond. Cities can issue the municipal bond, and by issuing the municipal bond, cities can raise money. Okay. So basically what will be done? The credit worthiness of these municipal bonds would be improved. Okay, would be improved so that they can get money at lesser interest rates, etc. Then after that, good governance will also be promoted. Now here what government is going to do? So basically guys, we are already running the mission Karma Yogi. What is this mission Karma Yogi? Under mission Karma Yogi, capacity building for the civil servants is to be done. So whatever civil servants we have, okay, basically these civil servants, they need to move from rule based to role based. Civil servants, they need to learn the new state of the art techniques. Civil servants need to learn that how they can respond to the people's grievances, people's problems, etc. So basically, as a part of this mission Karma Yogi, Karma Yogi platform has been launched. What is this I Got Karma Yogi platform? It will provide continuous learning opportunities for the civil servants. Why? They can learn from the other civil servants, they can learn from their experiences, and they can upgrade their skills. They can learn from their other civil servants experience, and they can upgrade their skills. So basically, uh, government will government will ensure that through this I Got Karma Yogi platform, civil servants can enhance their skills under the mission Karma Yogi. Moreover, government also is going to focus on artificial intelligence. Now we know this particular thing, artificial intelligence is going to be the future. Artificial intelligence is going to be the future. Now, to reap the artificial intelligence's potential, what government is going to do? Government will start a mission, that is mission of make AI in India and make AI work for India. Make AI in India, make artificial intelligence in India, and make artificial intelligence work for India. Make artificial intelligence work for India. For this particular thing, 3 centers of excellence for artificial intelligence will be set up. Okay, so in the top educational institutions such as the IITs, etc., find 3 centers of AI will be established, which will leverage the AI potential of India, how AI applications can be built in India, which can be used fine in many varied fields. Okay, then there is also national data governance policy. National data governance policy that is being brought. Now, what is this national data governance policy? Basically, guys, today we see many new age tech startups are emerging in India. And as these new age tech startups are emerging in India, understand these particular things, often they need some data. So they will be provided anonymized data. Anonymized data. What is anonymized data? So basically, guys, you have a personal data. From this personal data, you remove the personal identity markers, and that data will become the anonymized data. Okay, for example, Mr. A is having X disease, Mr. B is having Y disease, Mr. C is having X disease, Mr. D is also having X disease. So A having X disease, personal data, B having Y disease, personal data, C having X disease, personal data. Now we can anonymize this data. For example, 3 people have X disease, 1 person have Y disease. We don't tell who these 3 people have that X disease. So anonymize the data. You remove the personal identity markers from a data and create the data anonymized data. So such anonymized data will be provided to the startups under National Data Governance Policy. Then next, DigiLocker. So there are guys, some changes that have been made on this front also. First of all, you already might be knowing about the DigiLocker. So what is DigiLocker? It is the initiative of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology as a part of Digital India mission. So what is a digital locker? Digital locker is a facility where in electronic format you can store your documents, etc. Okay, so basically it stores the documents in electronic format. They can be verified, even they can be stored into the printable format. So you can store your insurance, medical reports, PAN card, passport, marriage certificates, school certificates, all these documents in digital format in this DigiLocker. Now what government is coming for? Now basically the DigiLocker will be expanded. The services of DigiLocker will be expanded. So basically DigiLocker will become a one-step solution for updating of identity and addresses of the individuals maintained by various government agencies, regulated, and will be, now understand this thing. Okay, so basically suppose your KYC is to be done. Okay, now KYC is to be done, or let's say verification is to be done. That can directly happen through the DigiLocker. So this DigiLocker will become a one-stop solution, for updating of identity and addresses also. Okay, so any updation that is to be done, that can also be done through the DigiLocker. Okay, then government is also starting the system of unified filing process. So understand basically what is happening. Now the people who are doing some business, they have to do many of the compliances. There are the labor laws, there are the many other laws, and under that compliances are to be done. Now for all the compliances, PAN card will be used as a common business identifier for all digital systems of government agencies. Any government agency service you want to take, any government agency you want to interact, The business's identity will be its PAN card number. By that, ease of doing business will be enhanced. Okay. Moreover, a unified filing process will also be set up. Unified filing process will also be set up. Now see this thing, guys. There are many of the compliances that has to be given. Municipal compliances are there. Then there are the compliances that has a business has to give, let's say, to the fire department. Okay. So point is that for all these compliances, there will be a unified filing process. Unified filing process. There will be a common portal. There will be a common portal, and all the compliances, all the returns that are to be filed, they can be filed on the common portals. Then after that, result based financing. Result based financing. Now this is very important. What do we understand by this result based financing? So basically, to allocate the scarce resources. Okay. Now see this thing. Government is giving the funding for the different schemes. The funding is going on for so many of the years, but often we don't evaluate that whether these schemes are bringing some change or not. So basically, now the government schemes funding will be continued only on the basis of their result that they have given. So basically, what will happen? The financing of the schemes will be changed from input based to result based. What result a scheme is showing, on that particular base, their funding will be changed. Okay. And then e-court. Okay. So phase 3 of the e-court project has been started. Phase 3 of e-court project has been started. What is the e-court project? E-court project is a government's project to digitize the courts, to digitize the court infrastructure, to ensure that the filing, everything can happen in a digital manner. So additional funding has been given for the e-court project. And then the next is 5G services. So government will also be focusing on developing the 5G. Now see this thing, already the 5G trials have been completed in India, and commercial rollout of the 5G services have also happened. So basically 100 labs will be developed in the engineering institutions, and these 100 labs will focus that how the 5G services can be scaled in India. Now these 5G technologies can be used for smart classroom development, farming, intelligent transport system, healthcare applications, etc. Okay. So for enhancing the usability of 5G, for developing the 5G technologies, fine, we are going to develop 100 labs throughout the country. And then the specific focus on lab grown diamonds. Lab grown diamonds. Now, when we talk about, guys, the diamonds, what are the diamonds? Are the compressed form of carbons, but now the environment friendly artificial diamonds can also be made in labs. So they are optically same, chemically they are same as the natural diamonds, and these lab grown diamonds, the demand are increasing in the world. So basically, if we increase the potential of the lab grown diamonds, by that we can create a lot of employment potential. So therefore, for these lab grown diamonds, indigenous production will be promoted. Okay, research developmental grant will be done, given to the IITs for 5 years, so that they perfect the technology for making these lab grown diamonds. Okay, so for these lab grown diamonds, technologies will be perfected. Okay, so these are, guys, all about it. Okay, before moving on, guys, I will just take a rest of 10 seconds. Okay, as it is more than nearly 1 hour 42 minutes. Okay, guys, meanwhile, please tell me, are you able to understand or not? Guys, please tell me, are you able to understand or not? Is it making some sense for you? Yes, guys, is it clear or not? Okay. Then moving on. Now, green growth. So for the green growth, you know that already we have started the life movement. Life movement. Now, life movement stands for creating the 3P people. Pro planet people. Pro planet people. We need to ensure that our consumption of environmental resources is should be sustainable. Okay, so Prime Minister has given a vision to life movement. Panchamrit has already been started, where we have taken the 5 targets, in COP 26 in 2021 in Glasgow. Out of this Panchamrit, we have taken also the target of net zero carbon emission. So we have taken the Panchamrit targets, we have taken the net zero target by 2070, we have started the life movement. So this is the green growth vision that has been started by the Prime Minister of India. Fine. Fine. So this is the green growth vision. Now for green growth, we need to have sustainable energies. And for sustainable energies, guys, you know this particular thing that we have solar energy, we have hydropower energy, all these sources of energy are there. But in these sources of energy, there is one problem, that is the storage of electricity. For example, sun will not be there in night, but you need to generate electricity in the day, and then you need to store that electricity. How you will store that electricity which is made in the day so that it can be used in the night? So we need the battery technologies, we need the storage technologies. And for that particular thing, government is developing battery energy storage system, with a capacity of 4000 MWH. Okay, so viability gap financing will be provided so that the battery energy infrastructure can be built, by which the electricity generated by the renewables can be stored. Okay, pumped storage projects will also be started here. Okay, then green credit program. Now what is this green credit program? So a new program will be notified under the Environment Protection Act, green credit program. So basically the companies, the corporates, when they will sensitize the people, to become responsible with respect to the environment, okay, when the people will become environmentally sustainable, right? So building that kind of an attitude, the green credit program, such ratings will be given to these organizations. Okay, also PM Pranam has been started. PM Pranam. What is this PM Pranam? PM Pranam stands for Prime Minister Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment and Amelioration of the Mother Earth. Now, under this particular program, the state government will be provided additional funding so that they adopt alternative fertilizers. They use balanced chemical fertilizers. They should not use too much of chemicals. They use green fertilizer, they use green manures, they use compost, etc., which is environmentally friendly, environmentally sensitive. So for that PM Pranam has been started. Okay, then there is Govardhan scheme. Now what is this Govardhan scheme? Converting waste to wealth. So here 500 new plants, 500 new waste to wealth plants galvanizing organic bioagro resources dhan will be established. So basically what will happen? Compressed biogas will be developed. That compressed biogas can be used for cooking purpose, for heating purpose, etc. And 500 new projects, 500 new plants for biogas will be developed. Okay, so that is the Govardhan scheme which has been appreciated. Moreover, 5% of the compressed biogas mandate will be introduced for all the organizations marketing natural and biogas. So the organizations which are selling gases, biogases, they need to publicize the compressed biogas. This is something. Then Bharatiya Prakritik Kheti Bio Input Resource Center. Bharatiya Prakritik Kheti Bio Input Resource Center. What are they? So over the next 3 years, 1 crore farmers will be motivated, will be sensitized so that they adopt to the natural farming. Now, here bio input resource centers will be set up. Okay, now what they do? They will give the bio inputs, bio fertilizers, bio pesticides, bio manures, natural pesticides, natural manures, etc. will be given to the farmer. And for that, these bio input resource centers will be developed throughout the country so that they can provide these inputs to these 1 crore farmers. So in the next 3 years, at least 1 crore farmers will be nudged, will be sensitized so that they adopt the bio farming. Okay. Now, then Mishti has also been started. Now, what is Mishti? Mishti is the program for protecting our mangroves. Mishti stands for Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Incomes. Again, I'll repeat, Mishti stands for Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Incomes. Now, here what will be done? Mangrove plantation will be promoted across the coastlines. Okay, So when we talk about the coastline of India, okay, so along the coastline of India, mangrove plantations will be justified, and for growing more and more mangrove plant, MG Narega schemes, Campa funds, okay, Conservation and Afforestation Management Act. So the funding under the Campa, funding under the now people under the MG Narega will be used here. Okay, so this is the Mishti. Guys, now guys understand this thing. The beauty of the UPSC exam is that they ask the broad-based questions. Fine. For example, they'll ask that, okay, recently the Mishti program has been launched by government. This program is for what? Okay, for preservation, for dairy sector. It is for increasing the farmers' income. Okay, it is for food processing. It is for mangrove. Okay, so you need to know that. Then Amrit Dharohar, wetland conservation program has also been started. Now see this particular thing. Now government will promote the conservation of the wetlands. Now we see this particular thing, guys, that the wetlands are going down. Fine. Even when the wetlands are being converted in lands for societies, residential projects, etc. So wetlands numbers are going down. So for promoting the optimal use of wetland for enhancing biodiversity, now wetlands also store a lot of carbon. So for the promotion and sustainable management of wetland, the Amrit Dharohar wetland conservation project has been started. Okay. Then after that, for the youth, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0. Now this is very important. Now guys understand this thing. Today the welding and many old age skills are not that much usable. Today new age skills are coming. So we are entering the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, new skills, for example, artificial intelligence skill, robotics, mechatronics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, drone, soft skills, coding. These are the new skills that are needed. So under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 is being launched, where these new age skills will be given to the youth in the next 3 years. In the next 3 years. So on the job training, industry partnerships, they will be provided. Okay. And for that, 30 Skill India International centers will be set up across the different states. 30 Skill India International startups, which will give the training in these new age skills. Okay. Then after that, Unified Skill India digital platform. Okay. Now this Unified Skill India digital platform, here demand-based formal skilling will be done. Now see, today, suppose the industries need coders, industry need AI, the people who have an expertise in AI. So whatever type of demand is there in industry, that type of training will be given. Unified Skill India digital platform for enabling the demand-based formal skilling, linking with employers, including MSME. Okay, and then there is project of Unity Mall. Now, what is this Unity Mall project? So, guys, as a part, what is this Unity Mall? Now, see this thing. Different states have different kind of handicraft. They have different artisans making different kind of product. Now, these products, these handicrafts, often they don't get proper marketability. So, therefore, Unity Malls will be established in the state capital or in the tourist location, so that the states can promote one district, one product. The districts and the products that they specialize, they can promote these products. They can promote their GI products. For example, Pashmina shawl is a GI product. So in Jammu, they can establish a mall where this Pashmina shawl will be presented. Other GI products, other products of their states can be presented. Handicraft product, GI product, okay, can be presented. So this will be the Unity Mall. And then for the financial sector, so basically a revamped credit guarantee scheme for the MSME has been announced. Now what is the credit guarantee scheme? Basically, guys, the MSME sectors, fine, they need a financial support, and as they need the financial support, they need financial support. They can take loan, but often they are not able to give collateral. They are not able to give guarantee for their loans. So credit guarantee scheme is there, where government gives the guarantee for the credit that is being taken by the MSME. Now in this particular direction, there will be the National Financial Information Registry that will be developed. National Financial Information Registry that will be developed. Now, what will be happening as a part of it? There will be a central repository for financial and ancillary information. Okay, credit information. Okay, Okay, the avenues by which the loans can be given to the MSME sector. All that thing will be available at this National uh, sorry, yes, all that information will be available. Then Mahila Saman Bachat Patra, Mahila Saman Bachat Patra has also been started. Mahila Saman Bachat Patra has also been started. So this is a one-time small saving scheme. Mahila Saman saving certificate will be given. So for the 2 year, that is till 2025, a new scheme has been started. And as a part of this new scheme, women can invest in the name of women. The investments can be made. These Mahila Saman saving certificate can be taken up to 2 lakh rupees. Up to 2 lakh rupees can be invested, and up to 7.5% interest rate. 7.5% interest rate will be given into the name of women or in the name of girls. So this is the Mahila Saman Bachat Patra that has been started, and that is all guys about the entire budget, including the static, including the highlights of this particular budget. So guys, it took a lot of effort, and I hope that you have understood it. Beyond this, please don't go and watch even a single thing apart from that. All the things that have been there, which were there in the Hindu newspaper and which were not there even the Hindu newspaper, I have directly referred to the finance minister's budget speech, and this entire presentation has been made out of the finance minister's budget speech. So that is the most authentic source that we have, most authentic source. So that is all guys about this particular budget session. And now let's briefly see the other articles that we have. Okay. Now guys, I know that this session has become little bit long. If you have got tired, you can take some rest and you can come afterwards, after some time, you can come back and you can see the session. Okay, but we will cover fine because just few articles are more there. So this is one article which has come in the today's text and context section. Is judicial majoritarianism justified? Now this particular article guys will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, judicial issues. GS paper number 2, judicial issues. Now in this article guys, much of substance is not there. It is talking about a very basic issue that has happened. Now if you have followed newspaper analysis recently, we have covered this particular article in our newspaper also. So guys, what had happened recently, we have seen this particular thing, that a Supreme Court has given judgment on the constitutional validity of demonetization exercise. Okay, and we saw this particular thing that the Supreme Court has held that the demonetization was justified. Demonetization was justified. Supreme Court has held that particular thing. Now what this particular article is talking about, guys, first of all, this article is talking about that in that particular judgment there was Justice B.V. Nagaratna that was also there. Justice B.V. Nagaratna opposed the majority decision. Majority said that the demonetization exercise was constitutionally valid, but Justice B.V. Nagaratna, she opposed, she dissented. She said that no, it was not justified. Now, guys, the point is that whatever the dissenting judgments are there, minority judgments are there, they are not accepted, only majority judgments are accepted. So for that particular thing guys, recently what has happened, there are discussions that are going on in intellectual circles. Now it has been said, first of all, let's discuss this particular issue. So basically guys, when we talk about the Constitution of India, it provides that any case which involves the interpretation of the constitutional provision, if there is any case which involves the interpretation of the constitution, then that particular case will be heard by a constitutional bench. That particular case will be heard by a constitutional bench. So what is a constitutional bench? Article 145 talks about that any case of a constitutional matter will be heard by constitutional bench, where minimum 5 judges will be there. So a constitutional bench contains 5 judge, 7 judge, 9 judge, 11 judge or 13 judge. Okay, and whatever majority will say, let's say there is a 5 judge, out of the 5 judge, what is 3 judge, 4 judge will say, that matter will be binding, that judgment will be binding. So we have article 145 subclause 5 which says that a majority consensus will be agreed. Majority consensus will be agreed. So point is that if 4 judges are saying X and one judge is saying no. Why? If 4 judges are saying yes, one judge is saying no. So that dissenting judgment, minority judgment usually doesn't have any weightage. Now, article is saying this particular thing that, see, when we talk about the elected leaders, fine, MPs, MLAs, they might act on hunches, they can act on popular perception. Okay, they might act on their own prejudices, stereotypes, but judges, they are the people of big, huge caliber. These are well-read people. Okay, usually they don't act as per their own hunches, as per their own perceptions, as per their own stereotypes or such kind of a thing. But it has been said that still there might be possibility that the judges and their judgment can fall prey to judicial hunches. Okay, the point is that even the dissenting judge who had said opposite, that dissenting judge's judgment should also be given some importance. Dissenting judge's judgment should also be given some importance. Now here we have some examples in the history also. For example, we have ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla judgment of 1976. And here HR Khanna gave a dissenting judgment and upheld that the right to life and personal liberty will be upheld even during the situations of emergency. So he gave that right to life and liberty will still be there. Now, this dissenting judgment is important. Okay. Now understand this thing. We have Khadak Singh case. Now in the Khadak Singh case, Justice Subbarao in Khadak Singh case in 1962, there he provided this thing that the right to privacy is a fundamental right. And now actually right to privacy has been declared as a fundamental right in KS Puttaswamy case. So even the dissenting judges who had given their judgment in the historical times, it cannot be overruled. It cannot just be said that they don't make any sense. No, that's not correct. So even the dissenting judgment should be given value. This is what this particular article is talking about. Now moving to next article. What is the government's new policy for UPI for NRIs? UPI for NRIs. This particular article, guys, we'll see with respect to GS paper number 3, digitization of economy. Digitization of economy. Now, guys, what is the new rules that have come? So basically, guys, understand this particular thing. Now, all of you surely might have used the UPI Bhim method of payment. Now, see this thing, guys, if you want to transact or if you want to transfer some money through UPI, through Bhim, how you can do that thing? You can do that thing. You have to make your virtual private address, and that is usually made on the basis of your mobile phone number. When we talk about the mobile phone number on whose basis you can make a UPI ID, on whose basis you can make a Bhim ID, mobile number, only Indian mobile numbers are accepted. But what about the foreign mobile numbers? There are many NRIs. They are Indian, but they live in foreign countries. They have foreign countries' mobile phone numbers. They are right now not accepted for making a UPI ID or for making a Bhim ID. So now what has happened? Basically, the National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India has provided that even international phone numbers can be used to make transactions using UPI. You can make a UPI ID on the basis of the international phone number also. Moreover, secondly, government has also approved the promotion of a RuPay debit card and low value Bhim UPI transactions. Now we have Master and Visa. These are the gateways, American gateways. We have developed our own card, that is the RuPay card. Now the RuPay is an Indian gateway. RuPay is an Indian gateway. So we need to promote RuPay more than the Visa and MasterCard, etc. that we have. So we need to promote RuPay card. For that, government has provided that the banks and the other agencies should be sensitized. Moreover, low Bhim UPI transaction should also be promoted. For example, you bought a chocolate of 10 rupees. Now usually shopkeepers don't entertain 2 rupee, 5 rupee, 3 rupee transaction, but they should also be entertained. They should also be promoted. So these are some of the initiatives that have been taken. Now guys, understand this thing. As per the DigiDhan dashboard, DigiDhan dashboard, which is maintained by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, they say that today, out of the total digital transactions that are happening, 59.74%, that is around 60% of the transaction is through Bhim UPI. It is through Bhim UPI. So therefore, we need to promote Bhim UPI more and more. We need to promote Bhim UPI more and more. Okay. Now guys, there are two type of accounts that specifically I want to tell you about. There are the non-resident external accounts and then there are the uh, non-resident ordinary accounts. Non-resident ordinary accounts. What are these accounts? So NRE account. NRE account are the ones which are used by non-resident Indians to transfer earnings from foreign soil to India. So foreign account which is being used to transact money from, let's say, from America to India. Fine. Now when we talk about NRO, other accounts, NRO accounts are used to manage income earned in India by non-resident. Let's say a person living in America, but he maintaining account in India, okay, for his Indian payments. So that is the NRO. So NRO and NRE account. Now these all accounts can be mapped under the UPI. Now guys, by allowing the NRE and NRO accounts, as well as by allowing the foreign mobile numbers for the UPI transactions, we have enabled the NRI payment that they can use the UPI method for making bill payments, for sending money to their families, or for such kind of a thing. So this is something which has happened and a good initiative. There is also one more issue of MDR, merchant discount rate. Now let's understand this merchant discount rate. So basically guys, if you have ever transacted from the card, you might have heard that sometimes shopkeepers say that we will charge 1.5 to 2% extra. Why they charge 1.5 to 2% extra? Because they say that we have to, whatever money we will get, it will be 1.5 to 2% will be deducted. So you pay us 2% extra. Now understand this particular thing guys, that what is this entire issue. So basically when you are making the payment, if you are using a Visa card, MasterCard, so basically that payment will be settled by the payment gateway companies, that is the Visa, MasterCard, and they deduct 1.5 to 2% of their transactions. That money will go to them. That is the merchant discount rate. Now when we talk about the RuPay, there is no merchant discount rate in them. It is good for consumers. But what about the banks? Banks are not making any money out of it. Any money out of it. So MDR is a big issue. There is no MDR charge levied for RuPay, okay, based debit card or UPay transactions. And because of that particular thing, it has been said that the potential adverse impact of the zero MDR regime could be there on the digital payment ecosystem. Banks may not be motivated. So for that thing, what we need to do? So on that particular thing, it has been provided that some MDR, either it should be there or government should pay the MDR. Either MDR should be there or government should pay that MDR to the bank so that they become incentivized. Okay. Now moving to the next article, protection. A minute. Protection under Domestic Violence Act not available to male members, says Delhi High Court. Guys, we'll see this particular article with respect to the GS paper number 2, evaluation of government schemes and government laws. Now, first of all, no need to go too much in detail in this article. What this article is all about, basically, guys, you might have heard about the Domestic Violence Act. Fine. So there is a law by the name of Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act. Okay. So under this Domestic Violence Act, if a woman is being abused by the husband or by the family members, that women can approach the court, can approach the enforcement agency, that I am being harassed, I am being exploited. Fine. Now what happened? Domestic Violence Act, nowhere mention, when we talk about the Domestic Violence Act, a male has approached the court and said that my wife is harassing me, my wife is torturing me, and she had approached, and that person has approached the Delhi High Court. And Delhi High Court has provided this thing that you don't have any protection in the Domestic Violence Act. The DV, Domestic Violence Act, is not available to the husband. Now one thing guys, I want to tell you that there is one more judgment. Now see this thing. If you have heard this news earlier, there is one issue that is there. I want to tell you that also. See, there is one more judgment, that is Hiralal Harsora versus Kusum Narottam Das Harsora judgment. Now what is this judgment? Here Supreme Court ruled that the Domestic Violence Act is gender neutral. Domestic Violence Act is gender neutral. Now if it is a gender neutral, then now why the husband is not being given protected? So basically guys, understand this thing. Domestic Violence Act is made gender neutral. What it means? It means, let's say wife is being tortured by the mother-in-law. So wife can approach to the court against the mother-in-law. So not only the husband or the father-in-law will be covered, mother-in-law. The sister of the husband will also be covered. It is a gender neutral. But now the Delhi High Court has clarified that when we talk about the aggrieved person, the person who is getting harassed, the person who is getting tortured, that aggrieved person will be only women. Means husband cannot be the aggrieved person. So they have clarified that what do we mean that the Domestic Violence Act is gender neutral. So the end of the story is that Domestic Violence Act, women can approach the court, but husbands cannot approach the court against the women. Now, please don't do any PhD or any mastery on this. Fine. And then we have this one more article. India USA step up the strategic ties with the tech plan. We'll see with respect to the GS paper number 2, international relation, India US relations. India US relations. Now, basically, guys, as we see this particular thing, India is enhancing the cooperation with the USA. And for this particular thing, India and USA had started initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Now, under this initiative on critical and emerging technologies, there will be support agreement, there will be the co-development between the India and USA that will happen on the 6 areas. What are these 6 areas? Let's see these 6 areas first of all, one by one. So basically, innovation ecosystem, new innovations, artificial intelligence, drone technologies, etc. So on new innovations, India and USA will cooperate. Defense innovation, resilient semiconductor, space technologies, STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, next generation telecommunications. So for these 6 areas, there will be the cooperation between India and USA. And for the cooperation at these 6 areas, what we have done, we have signed the ICET, that is Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies with the USA. Now, guys, understand this thing. Over the past few years, we have seen this particular thing, that the USA is trying to decouple from China. USA is trying to decouple from China. It is moving away from China. Why? Because particularly when the COVID-19 pandemic was going on, USA realized this particular thing, that USA has become too much dependent on China. Moreover, there is also the ideological clash, ideological differences that are also going on between India and USA and China. So for that particular thing, USA wants to decouple from China and it is moving to the next logical partner, that is India. And these all things shows that how India and USA, they are converging, the relations are improving. Now, question will not come just on ICET. Whenever we talk about the IR, international relations between the two countries, there are convergences, there are the irritants. So this is an example of convergence between India and USA. Okay guys, so that is all guys about the today's session, where we covered the budget as well as the other articles. So beyond that, there is nothing in the today's newspaper. That is all guys for today. Guys, I hope that you have understood it and I hope that you like the video. Guys, if you have liked the video, please do hit the like button. Please do leave your comment. Your comments are very important to us and I personally read all of your comments. Thank you so much guys.